We don't really have to talk about the Duke runaway from Cal because that was always going to happen coming off. Maybe we'll talk bigger picture about Duke based on what you've seen. But I want to start with Wake Forest's implosion last night because they certainly look on the court like a team that is NCAA worthy. But you can't lose at home to Florida State from double digits ahead in the second half and really make a strong case when you didn't have a statistical resume case to begin with, no?
Yeah, it's an indefensible loss, and I use that word because they gave up 51 points in the second half to a team that doesn't score that much.
Right.
Like Florida State, and then add on top of that Florida State's best player, Jameer Watkins, fouled out with 4:50 left when Wake was up 9. Add on top of that Wake still, even in that implosion, never trailed until there were about 13 seconds left when Taylor Bowen makes a three-pointer, and he's wide open, and everything about that situation is no threes. You're up 2 and the shot clock's off. Don't give up a 3.
Right.
And Trayvon Spillers tagged the roller through the paint and left Taylor Bowen wide open. He's a good three-point shooter. He shoots, I think his even average is right around the 36% mark. So it's just a dumbfounding loss. You add on top of everything else that I just mentioned, and it's going to be a tough one to come back from.
Yeah, I mean they operate right now in terms of, and I hate to use this because it's such a trope, but if you look at any of the bracketologists, they're right on the edge of the bubble, right? They're one side or the other of making it into the NCAA tournament, which simply means this: their situation is precarious, and you obviously need a couple of good wins, but you can't have bad losses. That was a quad 3 loss yesterday. They've only got one quad 1 win. I don't know if those two cancel each other out or not. I don't think so. I think the quad 3 loss is way worse based on how. And with 6 games left, they can't be playing a bigger game than Saturday at SMU, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one. I just put this out a couple hours ago. I don't think you can say that Saturday's game is a must-win because there's that carrot at the end of the stick where they go to Duke on Monday night, the last week of the regular season. But then there's I've started calling it the since Tim Duncan's senior year rule,
right?
Where the last time Duke won in Durham, it was Tim Duncan's senior year. The guy had a 20-year NBA career and already been elected to the Hall of Fame since Wake Forest last won in Durham.
Right.
So I just, when you think about that, the rest of their schedule, I think the game at NC State is actually a quad 2, but it's hovering in the quad 2 or quad 3 range. And based on their trajectory, I don't know that that's going to be a quad 2 chance for long. And then they have 3 home games that are all quad 3s.
Yeah, there's no good wins. It's it.
They just lost and that's the nature of where the ACC is right now. And you can moan and complain about the perception of this league for the last few years, but it's not going to change now. I mean, the time to change it is either in May when we look at the net and try to adjust the formula, or in November and December when you have to win non-conference games.
Yeah. Look, I think the ACC has earned their place on the wrong side of the bubble as a conference this year. Yes. Absolutely earned. I'm not complaining about it. Last year I complained about it because I thought it was gamed. I thought the Big 12 gamed the system last year, and I thought the ACC was better than it was given credit for. And I don't know if anything was proven to be right or not. That's not the point. But this year was not gamed. This year they have earned their spot. Right now, I would say there's going to be 3 ACC teams in the field. Now, the way Clemson is playing, I wouldn't be completely shocked if they were seeded 5 or higher by the end of the season. Duke is going to be a 1, barring something strange. And I think Louisville is going to be solidly probably wearing a home uniform on the in the first game that they play. but I don't know if anybody else is going to make it. And so Wake can't afford those. The reason I don't think Wake's going to win at Duke, and I don't think they really have a good chance to win at Duke, even though I think Wake is good. And I think you and I may have talked about this before the game over in Winston-Salem, is that I think Wake's starting five is very good. I think their bench just doesn't give them anything. And we saw that last night when Reed and Johnson were both in foul trouble. They really didn't get much off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to make it work with Omaha Ballou. I think last night was his sixth game that he's played in all year, and it was Wake's 25th game of the season. It's mystifying to me and everybody you talk to around the program what has happened with Parker Fredrickson. I mean, he was a 40% three-point shooter for the first two-thirds to three-quarters of his freshman year last year, and then he hit a freshman wall at the time is what we thought it was.
Right.
And over the summer and the preseason, we heard about how fantastic of a shooter he was. I think they were putting out, the scrimmage stats. He was like 7 for 9 in one of their scrimmages in October. And I mean, he has no confidence. He just doesn't really even look to score the ball other than when he's on a fast break or is wide open. And, they can't even get Davin Cosby on the court because he's dealing with a toe injury. Churchill Abbas, I think, averages about 11 fouls per 40 minutes. It's something ridiculous as their backup center. It's just, it's kind of, I hate to say it. I don't want to call Steve Forbes a liar. I'm sure in the preseason he's not BSing us when he says that he thinks they're going to be 10 or 11 deep. But this is not the first time that we've gone through a preseason and thought that Wake was going to be really deep, and we get to February and it's like, oh my God, what happens when two guys are in foul trouble? This rotation is shot.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened. I mean, Juke Harris gives them good minutes off the bench as a freshman, but he's a freshman. He makes freshman mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's really piecing things together after that.
Conor O'Neill, Devils Illustrated and Deacons Illustrated at Conor O'Neill _DI. I screwed that up at the beginning. I apologize. But if you're watching on YouTube, it's written there right for you, so you don't really have to listen to me. Let me just really quick ask you about the Blue Devils, who took their first conference loss, their first loss since November at Clemson. In exactly the same fashion they lost their other two games this year, with Cooper Flagg driving late, maybe going to score. I think this time probably going to score or at least get to the free throw line. Only this time he slipped on a wet spot. This has drawn some. I think it was Dallin Cuff from ESPN yesterday said, Cooper Flagg hasn't performed well late in games, and I'm like, you ain't watching, dude. Especially the Clemson game, I thought he was really good in the second half as Duke was coming back. Anyway, was there anything that you noticed from that game that is a concern for you?
I think some of my concern was already alleviated with the way they played last night. It was jarring to watch them give up 40 points in the paint to Clemson.
Right.
And it was jarring Duke went into that game with the best 2-point field goal percentage defense in the country, and Clemson made 26 of 41 from inside the arc. And a few of those early are tough contested twos by older players like Chase Hunter, and Jaden Zachary.
Yeah.
It's always going to be the veterans that know how to get to their spot that can burn you on the 12 to 15 footers. But in the second half, you got Common Malawach as a projected lottery guy, and he's getting the ball just taken straight at him by Victor Locken.
Yeah.
That's a problem. And Duke was very, like John Shire and Cooper Flagg, when we talked to him after the Clemson game, they were very transparent and upfront about this was a problem. Our interior defense was bad. So they alleviated some of those concerns yesterday. Cal doesn't have the interior scoring of Clemson. They're going to get tested a little more against Maxime Reynaud on Saturday. That's the one that I'm really interested in seeing how that plays out. He had a terrible game. I didn't see it, but just looking at the box score, he had a terrible game last night in Atlanta. So he might be a little extra motivated. I know Stanford, I think the last time they came east, they lost in Winston-Salem and then won at North Carolina on the following Saturday.
Right.
So they're looking to do something like that, but it's Duke's interior defense that was concerning at Clemson, was better last night against an albeit inferior front line, and then that's what I'm going to be looking for on Saturday.
Conor O'Neill, that's why we have him on. At Conor O'Neill _DI. I got it right for the second time in a row. I appreciate your time, sir. Enjoy the game on Saturday. Stanford coming east for an ACC game. I feel bad for those guys at Cal and Stanford that have to travel 3 time zones for basically every road game. It is unreal, except for games at each other's place and at SMU. I feel bad for them. I guess Notre Dame is Central Time, right? Yeah, Gary, Indiana? Or
No. South Bend is right on the edge
is it?
Central and Eastern.
Yeah,
and it's in Eastern.
My gosh. All right. Again, another reason why we have Conor O'Neill on the program. He knows his time zones. All right, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Adam.
You got it.